Closer to a South African raptor that many would like to set their eyes upon. After the break, a study on the black harrier helps us to get to know this bird better.
With an estimated population of only 1,000 or 2,000 birds left in the wild, it's clear the black harrier, like Rhinosterfelt, may be holding on to survival by a thin margin. With the winter rains on their way out and spring rolling in, it's time for many migrating birds to arrive from up north. More than 10% of the world's bird species either live in South Africa or visit us each year. But what's remarkable is of those bird species that are found only in South Africa, there's a lot we still need to find out. And in some cases, we don't even know if their populations are growing or dying. One such bird is the black harrier. It's an uncommon sight, even for experienced birders. Swooping across the fynbos of the Cape, the black harrier is the forgotten bird of our skies. The last real study on the species was done 23 years ago. It looked at the breeding success of 5 nests. And that was about as far as our knowledge on this enigmatic species went. It was right under our noses, and yet we knew almost nothing about it. But this changed 3.5 years ago, when Odette Curtis, a researcher at the Percy Fitzpatrick Institute in Cape Town, began a study on the black harrier. Her work was part of the Western Cape Raptor Research Program, run by her supervisor, Andrew Jenkins.
Odette's project is one of sort of 5 or 6 projects that I'm running at the moment that fall within the Western Cape Raptor Research Program. And with Dr. Rob Simmons, Odette and myself, we've been looking at the natural history of the black harrier and the relationship between the harrier and the habitat that it lives in.
From distribution maps, the researchers knew that the black harrier was associated with the fynbos along the coastal plain of the Cape. But little of this landscape is still in pristine condition. Coastal developments are springing up everywhere, and agriculture has changed vast swathes of land all the way to the mountains. Odette and Andrew wanted to find out how these changes in the landscape had affected the distribution and breeding of the bird. Recently, I joined Odette to see how her project was going. A year ago, she'd found one harrier nest in the vegetation of Riverlands Nature Reserve near Malmesbury. This was a follow-up visit. So this looks like it's been recently cleared.
Yeah, they're clearing Australian acacias.
Rhinosterfelt or lowland fynbos is found here. The rich clay soils in the area are perfect for thousands of endemic plant species. Many of these are only now becoming known to science. But plants sit still and birds don't. This vegetation type with lowland fynbos, it's pretty threatened. So there's not many tracts of it left.
No, it's very endangered felt, and what you see here is an example of a relatively well managed, well, very well managed, because they're doing a lot of alien clearing here. So it's a well conserved piece of lowland fynbos.
And to find a bird in this?
Basically what you do is get into an area like this, sit down and spend a few hours watching.
So you just wait, eh?
Yeah.
So shall we get comfortable?
Yep.
So it's a hurry up and wait scenario, is it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Sure. As I was about to discover, waiting for a black harrier doesn't always bring quick rewards. The smallest dots on the horizon didn't answer our wishes either. The reality is, black harrier research means a lot of waiting.
This isn't very surprising because we've had a drought on the west coast this year, or in the Swartland, and it's likely that the drought would affect rodents, and that obviously that would affect harriers, and so we've only found sort of half the number of birds that we usually have breeding along the coast. And up in the mountains, out in Paarl, we've got no breeding activity at all. So we were half expecting to find this sort of thing happening here this year.
It was time to move on. For Odette, the fact that more black harriers aren't found in Renosterveld is perplexing. She's been having more luck at Jakkelsfontein Private Nature Reserve, near Eysterfontein on the west coast. Jakkelsfontein consists of a type of fynbos known as strandveld. Growing on nutrient-poor soils, strandveld plants are particularly tough and able to handle extreme conditions. Odette has found the black harriers like nesting here. We hadn't gone far when we saw our first bird.
They fly very low over the bushes.
Yes, yes, they do. That's how they hunt.
And they're hovering, so they're looking for prey.
Yeah, she's hunting. Very, very definitely hunting. That's how they forage. They forage by flying low over the vegetation. We call it quartering. They quarter and move from side to side like that. And they're basically looking and listening also for little mice.
The bird drops quickly to the ground when it sees something. But this male obviously has other things on his mind. He was about to give us a demonstration of one of the black harrier's unique characteristics. With its prey, it began interacting with the female. We were then lucky to see a mating. Like other harriers, the black harrier is sometimes polygamous. The male has more than one mate. When he returned to his second nest, we followed. His mate soon took off, and we found what we were after.
It's well hidden when you're looking for it, but when you find it, you realize they're actually quite exposed and quite obvious, especially to an aerial predator.
Raptors searching for nests, snakes, mongooses and cats are the egg's biggest threats. It was amazing to think that such a flimsy and exposed nest was an entire investment in their future. 3 weeks later, 3 fluffy chicks filled the nest, and the parents were hard at work feeding them. The female generally stays with the chicks while the male catches mice, frogs or small birds. With more than one nest to attend to sometimes, he had his work cut out for him. When he returns with food, he gives it to the female and she feeds the chicks. We moved to another nest Odette had been monitoring at Jakkelsfontein. The chicks in this nest had hatched some weeks earlier.
Oh no, there's a chick out already. Uh-oh. This is going to be fun. Hi, little baby. Hello. Ooh. Come on, come on. Okay. There were 3 chicks. See, they're actually already fledging. It's a little bit late, but it's fine. This chick, the tail feathers are still sort of, they're only about 1/3 through the, to completion, so they've still got to grow about that long. And if you look closely on the tails, you can see some bars that run across. You don't always get them on the birds, but you can see this bird has only one, and we call these hunger traces. And this indicates a period when the bird was quite hungry, and therefore when the feathers were developing, this was a period when it needed a bit of extra nutrition and didn't get it. And so you can see there's a weakness in the feather, and that we used to judge the sort of how good the food was at the time that the chicks were growing up. If the food supply was really bad, they'd have a whole lot of hunger traces, and then the feathers could break easily at that point, which obviously isn't good for the bird.
And the one that's not here, you're quite worried about that one?
Yeah, I can see the other ones are sitting in there. At least one is sitting there in the bushes. Actually, it's a female, this, definitely.
How do you tell the difference?
By the size of the bird, and especially the size of the tarsus and the feet. If we have a male, we can show the difference. The males have much skinnier legs, and they're a lot smaller than the females, which is the case in all birds of prey.
No.
So you basically just hold him, make sure you've got everything together, the wings and the feet, and that's fine. And then I'll just, okay, so the first thing we do is, the most important thing is write down the ring number. And I think it's a female.
So far during her study, Odette had ringed over 100 black harriers. The measurements she's taking will be used to compare the health of chicks living in different areas.
It's easy. This is really useful when we know the exact age of the chicks, which I think we do in this case because the nest was found when they were only a couple of days old. So, and then we can use these measurements as an index of condition and maybe compare that between different areas.
The chick is then weighed to confirm its sex.
It's definitely a female.
Like other birds of prey, female black harriers weigh more than the males. Having made its contribution to science, the chick is released to once again fend for itself in the wild.
There for now, but she's not going to sit there.
But it's information gathered from the radio tracking of black harrier males that may yet prove most revealing.
We have to do this within a minute, because at exactly the same time, our watches are synchronized. The assistant on the other copy, she's doing exactly the same thing.
This triangulation, as it's known, has shown that this particular black harrier nests in the coastal Strandveld, but hunts in the lowlands away from its nest. Odette began to wonder whether the bird's habits had been changed by man.
When you look at the landscape, there's a strip of Strandveld vegetation which runs along the coast. When you move inland, you have your lowland fynbos and renosterveld, which has been heavily affected by agriculture because it's a fertile, very fertile veld type. And then when you move much further inland into the mountains, you get mountain fynbos. And basically we found this very strange distribution in the harrier breeding population, that they breed along the coast and in the mountains. But between those two areas, in these lowland areas, we don't find many birds breeding there.
In days gone by, renosterveld was the main vegetation type of the Cape. Its rich soils covered vast areas of lowland. Great animal herds crisscrossed it. Today, renosterveld occupies less than 3% of its original range. The reason for its demise? Agriculture. Today, its rich soil serves man, while the many thousands of species which were once found here are gone. At the present rate of destruction, we are losing this fynbos faster than we can find new species in it.
If we can link this bird with endangered habitats, we could, and through promoting it as a flagship species and using it as an indicator, create awareness like they've done with the Blue Crane project.
With an estimated population of only 1,000 or 2,000 birds left in the wild, it's clear the black harrier, like renosterveld, may be holding on to survival by a thin margin.
But what I find quite amazing is that this magnificent raptor, this incredible bird that's literally right under our noses, has been overlooked for so long. We know more about the garden slug than we do about the black harrier. But with Odette's research, this is sure to change.
Goeie nuus is dat die regering onlangs spesiale belastingvoordele aangekondig het om boere aan te moedig om daai laaste lappies renosterveld op hulle plase te bewaar. Dis maar net 'n manier om te verseker dat die oorige renosterveld en al die diere wat daarvan afhanklik is, nog vir baie jare daar sal wees. So, as jy 'n stukkie renosterveld op jou plaas het, kontak gerus die ontvanger van inkomste en sien hoeveel daardie waardevolle lappie grond jou aan belasting kan spaar. After the break, Samaka.
Dries en Lozelle van Bloemfontein vra of dit waar is dat windswaalkies nie weer kan opstyg as hulle eers op die grond beland het nie.